Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, Alhamdulillah, we are here. What I understood from our meeting this afternoon, it's an open discussion around your responsibility as young Muslims. So, in this room, there are young Muslims and not so young Muslims, and at the end is the responsibility of Muslims that we are talking about. Just as an introduction, the Western culture and the Western mindset that we find in what we call the world culture, there is something which is very important behind the whole culture, which has to do with celebrating life. And when you celebrate life, what is important is this being young, remaining young, and enjoy life as if you were young. There is something in the heart of the Western culture which is celebrating being a young person with a young mind. Whatever the time is doing to you, remain young. And find the way to remain young by the way you are going to deal with your own body, your own age. All the means are there to make you feel less old, which is a celebration of life for life. While when you come from an Islamic perspective, we don't have a problem with being young, but we have a problem with being young without having a meaning to remaining young, being young, and becoming an adult. So this is something which is very important, because behind everything which is coming with the Western culture, the movies, fashion, drink, dress, it's all about be young, remain young, and enjoy life. That's all fun. What is important in our resistance is we have to be careful. When it comes through, you know what is the universal language of young people? It's music. Music is, you feel it, sometimes you like the lyrics, but at the end you feel it and you forget about the true meaning of things. So being young is nurturing forgetfulness. Being a Muslim is coming back to reminder, to remembrance. It's two different ways. So here we are at the heart of two cultures that are clashing. One is telling you, be young, remain young, and forget about things. Enjoying means forget. The Islamic understanding is be young, celebrate your young time and your youth as something which is essential, but not forgetting the meaning of life. It's being young and reminding and remembering the meaning of things. And this is the process. So when it comes to everything that you are doing, you have to ask yourself, all the means that you have in your life, when it comes to computers, when it comes to television, when it comes to radio, when it comes to music, when it comes to movies, when it comes to fashion, at the end, all this is sending you a message. Are you a human being putting meanings into things, or are you a consumerist where the only meaning of everything is to consume, is to buy? Are you a believer or are you a buyer? Are you having this relationship with I buy things, or am I remembering the very meaning of things? And this is why everything starts. So if you come now to the Prophet, ﷺ, he was, and this is something which is very important, he was acknowledging the culture of the people. When he went to Medina, he knew that Al Ansar, they liked, for example, when it was wedding, they liked music, they like fun. So he said, we will keep this. Everything which is halal, we keep it. Enjoying jokes, to like life, even sometimes just to have poetry. Poetry is good if what you say is good. poetry is bad if what you say is bad. And you know this. You don't need a mufti to say this is bad. These are bad words and things. All this is known to the point that when you come to the Quran, what is good is said in the Quran as being al-ma'ruf. Al-ma'ruf in Arabic means known by the people as being good. And you know, it's known by the people as being good. If you lie, the people know that it's not good. You don't need a mufti to tell you it's bad to lie. We know this. So when, for example, you listen to something which has to do with arts, the Prophet ﷺ, you know this, when he was welcomed, to the point that today, when Cat Stevens becoming a Muslim, the first song that he came back to is Tala'ul Badr Alayna. And Tala'ul Badr Alayna, it's a music. It's something which is catching your attention, but not music to forget, but music to remember. Music to feel good. And in Islam, you need to feel good. This culture of feeling good, it's our culture when we add to it that we feel good without forgetting the meaning of life. It's not feeling good and forgetting the meaning of life. This is very much something which has the essence of clashing between our two horizons. So when you are dealing with the Western culture, and now it's in your living room, it's in your TV, the music, you have to ask yourself, what should I do with this? I have to be selective. There are things that are very good. You have I know that you have some scholars now in your country that are saying even movies are haram. So I remember my grandfather once. He was well known in Egypt, and he was asked by the people, is the cinema halal or haram? No, the big question. So now you have scholars saying you don't watch movie, haram. And others saying, no, everything is halal. And his answer was very simple, but very deep. Is cinema halal, or cinema haram? So what is good in the movie is good, and what is bad. So you need to come to your own understanding. And once he was asked about, the radio program and the TV program, and people were saying we have to remove and to prohibit everything. He said that's not the way. And he said, and he put at the beginning of at the top of his journal, he said, "Inna as-sam'a wal basara wal fu'ada kullu ulaika kana anhu mas'ula." He was sending to the people, you are responsible. Inna as-sam'a, what you listen to, what you see, and what is your heart, on everything you are going to be questioned. So you don't need the state, you don't need the people to tell you, but you need you to be first to do this. You need to be educated. So the first responsibility, and this was with the Prophet ﷺ, what did he start to do? Is to teach the people. He was a teacher. The Prophet ﷺ was a murabbi. Murabbi means he was teaching the good behavior. So the good behavior is you need to know how you are. You need to be with Allah, with God, and you need to know how to behave. So you need to be responsible. At the age of 13, 14, you know that you have to pray, you know that there are things that you have to avoid. So you have to educate yourself also, and to put the essential things in the very essential, at the center of your life. And it means also to understand something which is important. When we speak about education, get me right, education is not only the Islamic education. Education is about everything. So, for example, you go to school and you get your degrees and everything. This is giving you instruments, means for you to be independent. The true Muslim on earth, it's an independent subject. He can and she can think by her or himself. You don't need somebody you don't think by proxy. You think for yourself. You need to take decision for yourself. You know what? Because one day, you will come back alone in front of God. You will be alone before God, and you will have to respond. And you cannot say, my father did this, my mother said that, my son, my brother, the cousin, my neighbor, the society, I was in the island. No. You, what have you done with yourself? So you know that one day you are going to be alone. So you have to go for your personal education. So it's a commitment. And education in Islam is Islamic education and the wider education. Everything which is helping you on earth to be independent and autonomous, to think by yourself, to behave by yourself, and to feel good by yourself. The only one to whom you should be dependent is Allah. La ilaha illahu. But anyone, everybody. يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. Your money is not going to help you. Your father is not going to help you. Your mother is not going to help you. Nobody is going to help you except what you knew, what you have done, and the way you behave on earth. So this is something that it's your responsibility. Now there is also something which is important. And I'm serious about this. If we say you have to think by yourself, it means that you have to ask questions. You know, one brother converted to Islam. He was a university professor in the States, and he converted to Islam, and he was going to the mosque, and he was not so happy. Why? Because he was seeing that the Muslims are followers and not subjects. They follow. So you follow the Prophet, ﷺ, yes, but you have to ask questions. To the point that he wrote a book saying, even the angels ask. Coming back to the Quran. وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ The angels were asking God, أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِقُ الدِّمَاءِ. Are you going to put on earth somebody who is going to corrupt it and to spread bloodshed? So even the angel asks. So the angels ask, so why don't we ask? The companions of the Prophet ﷺ were asking questions. So why don't we ask? You have to have some courage. A Muslim without courage, it's a contradiction in terms. If you don't have intellectual courage, what does it mean? Who are you if you don't dare asking questions? Say, I don't understand. Explain. Tell me why. Tell me why. Because it's everything it's about. So this is the problem. We go to the Western culture. It's coming to us with all these questions. Everything is possible in this culture. You can ask everything. You come to the Islamic reference. Shut up. Don't speak. Don't ask. Follow. That's not the way the education should be. Our education should be, it's solid because I have the right to ask and I'm expecting an answer. You know that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were very scared to give a fatwa. Not like our young Muslims, after 2 weeks, they give you 10 fatwa, we don't know anything about Islam. In less than 2 weeks, they are shuyukh. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ, being with the Prophet 23 years, 20 years, 10 years, they were scared to give a fatwa. Not only this, if I go to somebody and I ask a fatwa, I should and I have the right to tell him or her, because sometimes we have Muslim women that are scholars, and the first one was Aisha radiallahu anha, is your answer is coming from where? I want to know the structure. I want to know the source. Tell me. Don't tell me the answer without reference. I want a dalil. Give me the proof. Meaning, yes, it's good that you answer, but I have the right to know how you arrive at this conclusion. How your reasoning is structured and what are the sources. Give me the Islamic proof of what you are saying. Not because I don't trust you, but I respect myself. I respect myself. I trust you, but I respect myself. And I respect myself, I want to understand what you are saying. I'm not a follower, min ahl al-taqlid, meaning I follow without understanding. The best way to follow the Prophet ﷺ is to understand him, to understand the religion. This makes us independent. And this is what we need today. So it's based on education, your personal education, some intellectual courage, which is important, and then something which is important, and I will stop here, is the way you are selective with things. And selective means not everything in the Western culture, not even in the Maldivian culture. You have a culture here. Many things are good, but many things have to be reformed. Not everything is 100% good. In any culture, even in Saudi Arabia, their culture, many things should change. Many things. It's because of the Arabic culture that women cannot drive in Saudi Arabia, not because of Islam. They are using Islam to explain that you cannot drive. But what's that? Who said that? Give me something which can be explaining, I cannot drive. Why? What is the point? of having a fatwa telling you you stay at home and you don't drive. Because you know what? If you are alone in your car, it's as if you are alone in a very dangerous place. That's not, that there is something wrong in the whole logic here. There is something which is not working. You know what? At the very center, at the very heart of Islam, we have cultures influencing the Islamic answers. So we need to question the Arabic cultures. And I keep on repeating, the Arabic language is the language of the Quran. The Arabic cultures are not the cultures of Islam. They are not. The language, yes, but not the culture. So we have to reform the way. And in your culture, with the West, you take what is good. So you have to be equipped. And I would say to the young Muslims, be careful not to end up with this consumerist attitude. And you don't know what you drink. You don't know what you eat. You don't know what you listen to. I would like, for example, I have a daughter. She's a young daughter. I have kids, which is very important. Check who is singing. Check what he or she is saying. Check why. Check how. Check. Because they are using your mind, taking your money, wasting your time, and you are forgetting yourself. At the end, you are lost. That's the reality. If I know how to take your mind, to catch your heart, take your money, who are you? An object. And I can make money with you. You are not a subject. You are not independent. You are a toy. You are an object, and this objectivation of human beings is what the market is doing, because the Western culture is about money. You know, and I will stop with this. What we have now in many Western countries, we have during Ramadan just so many things that you can eat, halal things. And the Muslims say, oh, now they start respecting us. No, they respect your money. They make money with the meat. They make money with halal. Halal makes money. Islam makes money today. In the media when it's negative, and during Ramadan when it's positive. And at the end you buy and you sell. So that's also something which is important. I stop here to open the discussion with you, and I think that we have much time to exchange views. I told you, the courage to speak. And to speak out. You have the right to say you are happy, and you have the right to say I'm not. And the cameras are behind you. So I'm the only one who is exposed now, okay?
All right, this is from one of the books which you have wrote. It's a quotation which is, it's said that it's said by somebody who is very dear to you. I just want to get, the actual event where this was said. It's the quotation starts with a quote, our problem is one of spirituality. If a man comes to speak to me about the reforms to be undertaken in the Muslim world, about political strategies, and one of great geo-strategic plans, my first question to him would be whether he performed the dawn prayer. Could you please tell me the event?
Barakallahu fiqh. So these words were said by my father, rahimahullah. Once I came to him to see him early morning. I had my father, rahimahullah, had to leave for 41 years far from his country in exile because of a lack of freedom or dictatorship in Egypt. He was in Geneva. He was sad about the situation. He spent his life working for Islam. So this is why when the people are asking me, I have no merit to do what I'm doing, because it came from him. My grandfather was killed because of his views, and my father had to live in exile for 41 years. And once he was very sad in the morning, and he met so many people who came to him, say, you know what, I'm going to change this, to do that, and they want to change the world. And his first question, and then he was listening to them, and at the end, the only thing that I heard from him at the end is that our message is love. It's about love. Islam, it's about love. But it's also about your spiritual journey. So don't try to change the world and you are not changing yourself. And the starting point is the way you deal with the last prayer in the night during the night and the first prayer during the day, which is coming from the prophet of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So he was sending a message to me and to the people that he was referring to is just change yourself, pray your prayers on time, reform yourself, and this will be the first step to change the world. So this was something which was also very important. What I was, for example, saying yesterday, what is the essential thing that you have to do? It's your personal journey. So there is another thing which is important in what he said. He said, I will ask him or her if he or she prayed Fajr, meaning, are you serious about your religion? But being serious about your religion is also not to disconnect your own personal take on your own prayers with changing the world, because we are here to change the world for the better. That's also something which is important. And which is, wherever you are a student, you are a civil servant, you are a minister, you are a president, you are a sheikh, whoever you are, get this right. Change yourself for the better and change this world for the better. That's what Islam is all about. At the end of the day, at the end of your life, this will be the question. Have you reformed yourself, and what have you done with the world? That's it. Very simple message. Demanding, but simple. And it's not because it's simple that it's not demanding. And thank you for referring to my father, rahimahullah. And I quoted this in a foreword of a book that I wrote. And this is something which is very important. Sometimes you live with somebody for 60 years, 40 years, 20 years, and there are 2 or 3 things that he said or she said, your mother, your father, that are this is the teaching is in one statement sometime. Once I was reading 5 hours a day for years, and once my father came, knocked on the door and told me, Tariq, life is not in books. And he's right. With books you can do whatever, but when it comes to human beings, different books. Okay, other questions? Are you tired or scared? Or both? I was expecting, I don't know, so many questions. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm Abruk. I'm a student of social science. So most of the time that I spend pondering over things, it's usually to do with political issues and social issues. And I think in Maldives, it's definitely been an interesting time recently after the 2008 reforms, where we've started looking at things, I guess, in a different way. And it's been a huge experiment, I think, for Maldives, where we've tried to sort of start balancing between these new rights or access to rights in a different way, and sort of seeing like where these rights meet other rights and where we stop. And I think in general academics it's been a question, but more so with Islamic scholars, I think, in Maldives. This issue of where your critique should lie and like where you stop, because many times what you'll see is that there's no clear line between where a scholar is politicizing issues for their benefit or whether he's actually critiquing a social issue. And I think it's been used by the entire system in many cases, rather than really criticizing the arguments coming out of scholars. It's much easier to say, well, this is just a scholar politicizing the issue. And I think on both sides of the spectrum, we've seen a fair share of this happening. So one of the most important questions I wonder about usually when I think about the role of Islam in this political system. Certainly, I don't think democracy is a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. I think Maldives is experimenting, and it will evolve to sort of see how things will have to work out here. And so an important question to me is, where does the role of Islam and Islamic scholars lie in building a nascent democracy?
Yes, that's a deep one, and a good one. Really, it's a good one. And may I suggest, and especially when you are young, as you are, and you are studying now, to put things into perspective. What is very often missing in our attitude as Muslims is that we think about our reality through rules and not through dynamics. While in fact, why is it that the Quran was revealed over 23 years? Because you see that there is a divine pedagogy, is that there are steps and there is a direction. So we need to deal with this, and there is a lack of historical understanding with the Muslims today. Is it Islamic or not? And are we getting more Islam or not? In historical terms, and the one who was dealing with this, we know about Ibn Khaldun as the one who created or were thinking about sociology with the civilizations. But he was deeper than that. He's at the same time somebody who wrote about Islamic jurisprudence, about Sufism, about Tasawwuf, Shifa is-Sa'il. It's a very important book in this. He was not only a historian, but he dealt with history by saying, be careful, there are steps and there are dynamics. When you are in a society like Maldives, and you had until 2008 something which was perceived as a protected environment in religious and cultural terms, and then something happened which is opening up the political perspective, which is more freedom, pluralism, political debates, criticism from within. There is something which is positive, and at the same time you need to have the reaction to this. The natural religious reaction to more openness in political terms is more strictness in religious terms. It's natural. This is a transitory period where you will see that the people are so scared to lose everything about Islam that then we come with the rules and punishment, and that's a period of time which is natural in our history. Is this the end of the story? It shouldn't be, because Islam is not about reaction or being on the defensive. So the scholars are very sincere when they say, we need to protect the Muslims from what is happening. They are sincere, but they might not come with the right answer. It's a conjectural, and circumstantial answer to a specific period of time. So you, as young people, you need to look at the history, understanding that this reaction, what we call radd fi'l in Arabic, is that there is an action, openness, and then, we are going to lose everything. So it's all about this. For example, many Muslims, when they arrived in Asia, in America, in Europe, the first attitude when they say, what's this? Everything is permitted here. So haram, 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 haram. That's the business of haramization. Haramization is everything is haram because you are protective. So the people who are doing this are in fact sincere with the religious reference, but they don't know in the environment. So you are now in a transitory period where you are experiencing new things that you are not used to. And now people are coming to say, we have to be careful. Women are exposed in the West, we have to protect them. So we protect everything, to the point that yesterday you had mosque for women and today you don't. But this is, in my understanding, in historical term, it's a transitory period. It's a natural reaction to openness, and then you come to education, step by step, you come to find the balance. Because وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. So we should stop thinking, and this is where the scholars need to be aware. What you need in this country is Islamic scholarship, which is not reactive to the West, but confident with the self. This is who we are. And then we open up. But I see it coming, but it takes time. It takes time because it's a very difficult process to find a way. And you have it in Surah Al-Rahman when everything has to do with وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ. So أَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ. So you have to find the balance between this and that. And it's very difficult. So the sincerity of the scholars sometimes should not be questioned, but their capacity to deal with the new environment. And openness is good, but it's very demanding. Because it is what I said. You have to be selective. You have to know what you take, what you avoid, what you... And we have experience of Muslims doing exactly the wrong way. They took the worst from the West and they rejected the best. The worst is fashion, music, forgetfulness. The best is more education, critical mind, more skills, more technology, more sciences. This is what we should take, not the fashion. Not the fashion. If you have on one side to take from Dawkins in the critical discussion, from what is his name again? The movie that we saw, which is Stephen Hawkins. You can take from him better than to take from Madonna. That's the point. That's the point. But you have to be equipped. You have to be equipped here and to take from the best. So it's a natural transitory period. And what we experience in the West, I'm a Western Muslim, born in Switzerland, even though I am an Egyptian by memory. Everything happened in my life. I'm bearing something which is a legacy coming from Egypt, but I'm a Western Muslim. And I was dealing with people in the West who thought for years that the only way to protect Muslims is more haram, more prohibition, and isolation. And my take from the very beginning is more education and openness. And openness. I'm part of this society. I would let nobody tell me you are not a Swiss citizen. I'm a Swiss citizen. This is my country, and I'm going to do something good in this society. You have to do the same now, here, by knowing where you stand with this. So don't be too critical with the scholars, but just try to come with the right questions. You know, when the scholars are not giving you good answers, you might be critical with your own questions. Your own questions. You have the right to questions, and through your question, you change the minds of the scholars because, oh, something is happening here, which is important.
Why is a woman not allowed to go to Hajj without any mahram? Is it the Saudi culture or just is it in Islamic religion the same?
Look, there is the hadith, which is referring to the fact that a woman cannot travel more than 3 days without a mahram. So this was taken as a reference, literally, to say you can't come to Hajj, it's more than that, so you have to have a mahram. So they were very strict on this in the literalist understanding. Some scholars said, so look, you have a hadith saying this, not more than 3 days. Now, you have for this 2 main interpretations. I don't have time to go further, but 2 main interpretations. Some are saying, whatever is the travel, if it's more than 3 days, you need to have a mahram. Other scholars said, no, the point is, no, let me start with something which is going to help you. There is a story that you need to know between what we call afterward Ahl al-Hadith wa Ahl al-Ra'i. Once, the Prophet ﷺ said to people who he was sending to Banu Qurayza, don't pray. Salat in one tradition is Salat al-Dhuhr, the other is Salat al-Asr. لا تصلين صلاة الظهر أو صلاة العصر إلا في بنو قريظة. Meaning, you don't pray Salat al-Asr, let's say, take this version, before being there. And he sent them. One group said, One group said, the Prophet ﷺ said, we can't pray before arriving, so we are not going to pray. The other group said, no, he meant hurry up in order to be there before Salat al-Asr. And they prayed. Both groups came to the Prophet ﷺ and he accepted the two interpretations. What is important in this story is that the same text could be read in two ways. Literally, or what is meant behind the text. So when it is said during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you cannot travel more than 3 days if you don't have a mahram, it meant for some you cannot travel alone. Other scholars are saying no, what was meant as Ahl al-Ra'y, the first who are literalists are Ahl al-Hadith. Ahl al-Ra'y are saying what is meant is you need the whole question of traveling during this time is a lack of security. Now, if the starting point of your journey, the means of your journey, the arrival point of your journey is secured and there is security, you don't have a problem with traveling on your own. And if, for example, you leave from here and you go to a Western country where you are ending in the family in a secure environment, that's not a problem. So you have scholars, ulama, saying the point in the discussion is security is not the literal understanding of it. So you have two understandings. So what you have in Saudi Arabia, it's not cultural. It's a specific literalist reading of the scriptural sources and especially the hadith. Now, the good news about the whole thing is that over the last years, now they are accepting women coming in a group without a mahram, because now the group is assuring or protecting the women who are traveling. So things are moving. It's going to be a long time before, but still we have to assess the situation into progress. But get me right, it's not cultural. It's a very literal. And you have people here in your country saying exactly the same. You have people in every country. In the West, we have people who are saying a woman cannot travel on her own. And that's a very literalist understanding of the hadith. And by the way, get me also right, I'm not denying the fact that it could be read that way. So if this is your opinion, that's fine. But there are other opinions that are rooted in the Islamic tradition, and you cannot say it's less Islamic. No one can say it's less Islamic. To the point that the Prophet ﷺ, when they came both about the prayer, it was not about the traveling, it was not about praying, that a group understood we don't have to pray. So literally they didn't pray Asr or Dhuhr. And he accepted this by not saying that one group was more Islamic than the other.
I would like to ask regarding ijtihad. One thing that we've noticed is that when scholars, especially here, when they deal with adilla, they tend to, when they deal with textual authorities, they tend to come to the text with a preconceived notion about whatever issue that they're dealing with. And I think it's a very human thing. We're going to have biases, we're going to have preconceived notions, and we're going to have our own prejudices. My question is, how do we mitigate the impact of our biases or our prejudices on the ijtihad process and on how we, in the end, reach to an answer with regard to the issue that we're dealing with?
That you have tough questions, and this one is also a very tough question. For example, in the book Radical Reform, I'm taking this example. I'm saying that when it comes, for example, to women, we have a problem with the scholars because there are two biased process in the whole thing. The first one is the literalist reading that I was talking about. We take one verse, we forget the whole global message, and we say, oh, I can beat a woman because this is written. وَضَرِبُهُنَّ, I take this, I can. And I say, no, I'm sorry. You know, my position on this is that beating a woman is prohibited in Islam. Why? Because it's one verse in a process, and the process is follow the Prophet ﷺ. He never beat a woman. And if he is your example, you cannot just say, oh, he's my example, except in the way I deal with my wife. No, he never did that. And the steps through the revelation are, so you need to get something which is, be careful not to take the literal meaning. And this is also coming with your own prejudices. You take things because it suits you at the very specific, within a specific environment. The second thing that we are seeing, and especially when it comes to women, but not only, it's a cultural projection. That things are coming from our culture, so we project them onto the text and say the text is confirming what I'm doing. And to be able to distinguish between what is cultural and what you are projecting onto the text and what the text is saying, it's very difficult. So this is why it's important to come back to the texts, but also to get a sense of the Turath, which means what did the scholars said? And you have a diversity of opinions. Very often the scholars here are taking from a specific school of law and a specific trend, and they don't look at what other scholars were saying. So for example, I was criticized by people because I was saying, look, we have to be very cautious with the way we deal with hukm al-ridda, apostasy, because we have scholars in our history, they didn't say what the majority were saying, and they were saying the Prophet ﷺ never killed somebody because he or she changed her religion, but because they changed the religion to betray the Muslim community. They were war betrayers, which is completely different. Who is the first to say this? Not Tariq Ramadan, it's Sufyan al-Thawri. And who among the scholars could say Sufyan al-Thawri is a kafir? Come and say it in front of me. You who are being told by whoever you want, Sufyan al-Thawri was a kafir, Sufyan al-Thawri was wrong. He had opinions. And on this point, we need to understand that by knowing more our legacy, we have a diversity of opinions that are helping us. And then we also have to do our critical, work to do, which is this really what the texts are saying? Or is this a cultural construction or projection? This work has to be done. So for example, in all the work that I have been doing for the last 25 years, you know, I was studying in Egypt with scholars and all the ijazat I was following in al-ijtihad and in fiqh and all this. And in fact, you never experience exile by accident. Never. So if I was born in Switzerland in my own journey, it's not by accident. I think that there is a meaning on this. So I used the new environment to come with different means, but respecting the text. So there is something which is important in this, is al-haram haram. So, you know, the one that we have a mufti in France who was saying during Ramadan, during the day, you can drink a coffee for social. No, that's not going. This is too far. Now, to be able to respect the principles, but at the same time to assess what was cultural in the interpretations, what was politically driven, because, you know, scholars are dealing with politics, as you know this, and even especially here, everywhere, you know, we can instrumentalize religion. So you have to deal with all this, the legacy, diversity of opinions, and come with your own take on the text and try to get a better understanding. It's an ongoing process, always. But you are right on this. We have to be very cautious with this. And, you know, never idealize a scholar. Never. A scholar could be right in 99% of what he is saying or she is saying and wrong on one. He can be so impressive in many ways. And I'm always saying this about Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali was a great mind. Ihya Ulumuddin is a great book. But when you read what he's saying about the relationship between men and women, he's completely wrong. The marriage contract for him was a contract that we can compare to the slave and master relationship. He was culturally driven. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, the great mind that was talking about philosophy, was talking about al-munqiz min al-dalal, responding and being even the inspiration of Descartes in the Western philosophy, is the one who said things about the relationship between men and women that are not acceptable. He was culturally influenced by his environment. So we have to be critical with this by saying he's a great mind, but he was wrong. That's the point. The only one about whom you can't say this is the Prophet ﷺ. Everybody else, every human being, whatever his status or her status on earth, the greatest scholar or the greatest president, I'm challenging you. You are but a human being. And by the way, even the Prophet ﷺ had people coming to him and say, is this your opinion or is it coming from God? If it's your opinion, it's wrong. And he was listening. If the Prophet ﷺ is listening, so what about these people who are now not able to listen? So this is where your courage lies. This is where you have to be. Don't tell the people and never tell me we are not heard. At one point, if you are not heard, you also have to check the means that you are using to be heard. We have to stop playing the victim mentality in this community. Victimhood is the best way, just to blame the people and to do anything. We have to stop with this. And it starts with our own self. And one of the signs of the victim mentality is to say, everything is wrong with these Muslims. It doesn't work. So it's the same, it's nurturing the victim mentality. So we are sometimes critical with our own selves, but not in a constructive way. In a destructive way, and we don't bring anything positive in the discussion. This is not self-criticism, this is intellectual laziness.
I actually wanted to ask you, what is the heart? It's just a pumping organ. And there are many answers given by different scientists and different philosophers and scholars as well. But is it the brain, or is it the heart, or is it the inner person speaking inside you? What is the heart? How can you understand the heart?
Can I ask you something before
Yes.
I respond?
Yes.
How do you understand it? So I can have a
that's
direct,
why-
straightforward question.
that's
Do you
why
have
I-
do you have a heart?
Yeah, of course I have.
So if you have one, you know what it is?
My heart, just like literal heart, just pumps blood, I guess.
Okay.
But the way I believe it, because I have been reading about this question, different scholars have said different things. Some say it's really the brain. Some say it's really the inner person speaking inside you. So why do we, even in Quran, I can't remember the actual words, but it's if you're a non-believer, you have to clean your heart, not the darkened eye. Clean your heart, something like that.
Okay.
So even when you're in love, you give your heart, not your brain or your inner self. You give your heart. So what is the heart?
If you come to the Quran and you come to the Hadith, you find many reference to the heart with many dimensions. The heart, yes, could be sometimes referring to an organ that understand. لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا. They have hearts and they don't understand with their hearts. So it's a dimension where you can, or through which you can understand. It's also in the Hadith, مُدْغَى, in the Hadith, فِي الْجَسَدِ مُدْغَى إِذَا صَلُحَتْ صَلُحَ الْجَسَدِ كُلِّ. It's in the Hadith, Allah is, the Prophet ﷺ is saying, in the body there is an organ. If it's clean, everything is clean. If it's perverted, everything is perverted. And here he's referring to the physical dimension of the heart. If you take all this together, you have to come to the very concept of human being in Islam to get it right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that from the very beginning, وَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. God created us with this fitra and this natural aspiration towards God. What is it exactly? It's when He created us, the physical dimension, He put in this the spirit into the physical. It's al-nafs. And nafs is the spirit within the physical. And the physical, the spirit is what we call الروح. يسألونك عن الروح. It's the soul. When the soul is in the physical dimension, there is something which is the essence of who you are, which is your heart. This is it. And when the spirit is inside, you with your mind, with your consciousness, you are feeling that there is a dimension within which is spiritual, to the point that it is said in the Quran, the reality of this fitra is said, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمْ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ. When he took from the loin of Adam the whole generations and made them testify through which? The spirit that you have inside. So the spirit that you have inside coming, it's where you have this aspiration towards God. You are seeking the truth.